Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll certainly echo what you said about the way we conduct ourselves here. Emotional topic, important topic to talk about. There's definitely two sides to every story, and there's definitely two sides to this story. You characterize those people who are concerned about minors having puberty-blocking drugs and surgery as far right. I don't think that's true. I think there are a lot of people in this country very much worried about where we're headed as a nation, particularly when it comes to young girls having to compete against biological males. Title IX was passed in 1972 to ensure that women would have a place in college athletics because most of them are non-revenue generating sports. Some generate revenue, most don't. But I think most athletic directors would say that it certainly makes the college experience better to support women athletics at that level. It's a feeder program for our Olympic teams. There's been a lot of success, the women's soccer program, and much of that came from the experience they had in college. This desire to level the playing field for women in 1972 was bipartisan. So now we have an assault, I think, on that concept. You mentioned 8 years ago the Bergefell decision created a constitutional right to same-sex marriage and legislation you talked about. We're not talking about that here. We're talking about other things here. The father who testified before the Missouri, I guess it was one of the House or Senate, seemed very sincere. I don't question that at all. He was worried about something being taken away from his transgender daughter. That's a good concept to remember. Rights of one should be upheld and cherished, but there are limits to the rights of one group versus the other, one individual versus the other individual. Your rights have to be balanced against other people's rights. And here's where I come down on this. You'll never convince me that a biological male who swam 3 years on the men's team and transitioned for the senior year, that was fair. And Ms. Gaines will talk about that. This is going on all over the country. Young girls are working hard in their particular sports, and on occasion, they're having to compete against a biological male who has decided to transition. And the evidence, I think, is pretty common sense based that there's an advantage. And at Olympic level, you have to take certain tests for testosterone and other tests you have to take to compete in women's sports because there's a disadvantage. And I believe this debate will go into the 2024 cycle. And the question before us, one of the questions is it okay for a state to ban transitions of a minor? And I think it is. I think the state has every interest in protecting minor children and regarding a medical procedure that is life-altering, given the evidence we have about how these procedures work. I find it curious that in Europe, they're beginning to pause, pump the brakes, and slow down laws that would allow minors to be transitioned because the evidence is suggesting that it's probably not the best thing to do, and they're taking a cautionary note, which makes America the outlier. That's the title of this article behind me. So today we're going to hear both sides of the story. My Democratic friends, if they could, would stop every state in the country from having laws regarding minors being transitioned. I think that's your position pretty much on your side. And on our side, we believe the states have every right to do that. And in my state, they're actually going down that road. So as we celebrate the 1972 Title IX Act reaching 50 years, plus we live in a time where the whole concept of Title IX is very much at risk. We're not talking about equality in marriage here today. We're talking about what are the boundaries, if any, in American society when it comes to minor children, and what is fair to all of us. Thank you.